Ladies and gentlemen, please continue to enjoy your dessert as our program is about to resume. Please welcome back to the stage today's MC, Melissa Ross.
And please continue to enjoy your lunch as we resume the program. Today's inductees were chosen for their character, community involvement, and of course, their success in business. The Hall of Fame class of 2015 joins an honorable group of First Coast business leaders who've been inducted over the past decade and a half. The selection process is actually very intensive. You know, the First Coast Business Hall of Fame is not an organization you can just apply to and then join. You must be nominated and then voted in by past Hall of Fame honorees who are all long-standing leaders of the local business community. Former Hall of Fame honorees convene once a year to discuss potential nominees at length, and then they vote by secret ballot. Very hush-hush. So to be considered, candidates must first have an exceptional business career. That's the first priority. But business leadership and success is not the only criteria. They must also make a significant difference as a civic and a community leader. Those are big hurdles, and choosing this year's Hall of Fame honorees was very competitive and a great challenge. Please join me in thanking this year's event and selection committee for their guidance during the nomination and selection period. Rob Clements, our 2015 chair, Barry Elred, Ron Autry, Karen Burdett, Pat Garrity, Steve Halverson, Preston Haskell, Leary Jenkins, Reverend Dr. Carlton Jones, Jerry Malott, Chris Oakley, Lynn Pappas, Carol Thompson, Michael Ward, and Terry West. They put a lot of hard work into this, and so thanks to them. Now, over the past 17 years, there have been 65 people inducted into the First Coast Business Hall of Fame. Their accomplishments and contributions to this area are legendary. Right now, we're going to add 4 new members to this prestigious group. To begin, we'd like to welcome back Nat Dolliner, Chairman of the FCEE. Nat?
Thanks again, Melissa. You know, I have some really good news, and I mentioned earlier that this year is a record breaker for the First Coast Hall of Fame, and it's our most successful event ever in Jacksonville, both in terms of funds raised and the number of attendees. Thanks to you, we have more than 450 people in attendance today, and we have raised $210,000 to support financial literacy and economic education throughout the First Coast and the rest of Florida.
It's very exciting, and that's right. And we found out just as the lunch began some even more exciting news. The 4 honorees got together and decided to up that amount. The 4 of them together have contributed an additional $25,000.
Wow.
Which brings the amount to $235,000.
Wow.
How about that? And I think they've set a very nice precedent, maybe for the coming years. So it's a wonderful declaration of support for financial education from our community. And so with that, we are now ready to welcome the newest members of the First Coast Business Hall of Fame. Before each honoree comes to the stage, they will first be introduced with brief remarks from someone who knows them well, who will share some personal insights. Our first inductee this afternoon is Doug Bear. Now, many of you have known Doug for years. A lifelong resident of Jacksonville, Doug runs one of the largest inpatient rehabilitation programs in the U.S. He sits on numerous boards and is involved in a never-ending list of community initiatives, when he's not at the swamp, that is. Here to tell us more about Doug's accomplishments is his longtime friend and board member at Brooks Health System, Gary Sneed.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm honored to introduce Doug today as he's inducted into the First Coast Business Hall of Fame. Doug began his career in finance. He graduated from the University of Florida, became a CPA, and went to work for KPMG in 1983. He worked there for 8 years and served various healthcare institutions, including Brooks Rehabilitation. In 1991, Doug came to Brooks as a controller. Over the next 10 years, he served as Chief Financial Officer, Chief Operations Officer, and he was named President and CEO by our board in 2002. Under his leadership, Brooks has grown from $55 million to almost $200 million in net revenue. In addition to the inpatient rehab hospital, Brooks has added a physician practice, expanded the outpatient division into 27 clinics, and now has the largest home health agency in Northeast Florida and Central Florida. I promised I would say that. A little over a year ago, Brooks opened a campus designed for senior services with skilled nursing, assisted living, and specialized homes for memory care. Doug has developed or enhanced relationships with all of our community healthcare providers, along with the University of Florida, University of North Florida, and Jacksonville University. He is recognized by his peers as an industry leader and has served on several boards nationally, statewide, and locally. Born and raised in Jacksonville, Doug lives at Jacksonville Beach with his lovely wife, Laura, and their 3 children. Now, everybody that knows Doug knows that he is a Gator fan, maybe the biggest, maybe the best. But there's another accomplishment that not everybody knows about. When Doug was 15 years old, he won the National Putt-Putt Championship in Columbus, Ohio. We at Brooks are fortunate that he was not swayed by this early fame, and he made the career move that he did. I played, over 24 years, I played many, many rounds of golf with Doug, and I think it was a great career choice. In his mind, he's never lost a match, but, well, we don't need to go there. It's now my pleasure to introduce the person that I have watched grow, succeed, and work with for the last 24 years, Doug Bear.
Ladies and gentlemen, Doug Bear.
Go Gators. Shad, don't worry, I love the Jaguars too. And Tim, I love JU, as long as they're not playing the Gators, that is. Gary, thank you so much for that introduction. Could have done without the putt-putt, though, for anybody that's played golf with me has the same idea as you that I made the right career choice. But I really appreciate it. It's great to see so many, friends and colleagues here today, and it's great that my beautiful wife and my daughter's here. So to be for this occasion, and I'm really honored to be part of the First Coast Business Hall of Fame. I'm especially honored to be inducted with these 3 guys today. Wow, what an all-star cast. And, the list of past inductees is also very impressive. And I'd like to thank the Florida Council on Economic Education on hosting this event and to the selection committee. And I'll have to say, I didn't know much about the Florida Council on Economic Education prior to this event, but wow, what an important mission. I was blown away at the activities that are going on here in Jacksonville and around the state to promote financial literacy for young people. And I think we all know how big a need this is. and not only with young people, but adults as well. You know, I know this is an individual honor, but I'm accepting this on behalf of the whole team at Brooks. Our president and COO, Michael Spiegel, our executive team, our management team, and staff are extraordinary, and they really make me look good. You know, we do a lot of benchmarking with others in our industry, and I'm convinced there's not a better team in our industry anywhere in the country. Now, why do I think that? Because this isn't just a job, it's a calling that we pour our hearts and souls into to get the best outcomes for our patients. And the Brooks organization is unique, and I'd like to tell you just a little bit about it. You heard a little bit from Gary. You know, we're a specialty provider of rehabilitation services that we deliver in multiple settings of care. You know, whether it's someone who has had, you know, an orthopedic condition such as a hip or knee replacement, person who has congestive heart failure, maybe an aging parent that needs assisted living, skilled nursing, or memory care, or an adult or child with a serious neurological injury such as a stroke or brain injury or spinal cord injury. We help you recover and achieve your highest quality of life. You know, demand for our services is increasing, so we're growing. We recently added to our home care division by acquiring AmeriCare Home Health. We now have a daily census of over 1,900 patients and operate in 23 counties in our home health division. Just this week, we opened a new outpatient therapy location on US 17 in Orange Park. We have a new 111-bed skilled nursing facility under construction next to our rehab hospital, which will open next summer. We'll open an aphasia center early next year to treat people with communication disorders as a result of a stroke or other neurological condition. This center will be the only one of its kind in the region and one of only a handful in the country. We're participating in a demonstration program with Medicare to test a new bundled payment delivery system for orthopedic and congestive heart failure patients. Our rehab hospital is a specialty center. We now have over 20% of the patients that we treat come from greater than 90 miles outside of Jacksonville. Our complexity of the patients that we treat are in the top 1% in the country. And it's not that well known, but our rehab hospital is actually the busiest rehab hospital in the country. These are just a few of the projects that we have underway. You know, it's exciting, it's challenging, and it's rewarding. And you know, the growth is exciting, but that's not what really matters. What really matters is the family I met recently. Their 22-year-old daughter, same age as my daughter, was in a horrific car accident where a car went airborne and crashed into her car, landed on top of her car. Her father told me that if a paramedic hadn't witnessed the accident, she would have died. She was badly injured, but she survived. The family lives in Fort Myers and considered all their options in the country, just as any of us would, for their daughter's rehab, and they chose Brooks. And her father told me that he was so glad that they did. Unresponsive at first, the young girl's making remarkable progress, talking and beginning to walk now. Yes, this is what matters. This story and so many others that are each different but as important. This is what matters and what drives our team at Brooks. I'd also like to recognize and thank the Brooks Board. They've been so supportive and instrumental in our success. I'd especially like to thank the Brooks Board for taking a chance and naming me as the CEO 13 years ago. I was a 40-year-old kid then. I know it sounds strange to say that, 40-year-old kid, but that's what it felt like. I'd never been a CEO and actually didn't really know what I was doing. But I learned a lot over the years, and of course I'm still learning. I especially learned a great deal from my board chair for the past 10 years, Gary Sneed, who you heard from. Gary's smart, supportive, strategic, and he has a special connection to our mission with his wife Lynn being a former patient. Gary's also very direct, very direct. So I've always known where the board and he stood, either good or bad. And this approach and Gary's mentoring have been so valuable to me, the board, and our entire organization. I'd also like to recognize our founder, Dr. Brooks Brown. He wasn't able to be here today, but he's been a great mentor to me and established a culture of excellence and compassion that we continue to emphasize today. He's a big believer in collaboration and thus our close ties to other organizations in the community. You know, all of us here have so much to be thankful for. Giving back to this great community we live in is just such the right thing to do. You know, that really struck me as I looked over the list of past honorees, just how much you all have done to make this a better place to live and raise a family. Thanks for all you do, and thanks again to the Florida Council on Economic Education for all you do and for this honor. Thank you.
Congratulations, Doug. Well, Tim Cost understands that roots not only anchor a tree to the ground, but provide nourishment for it as well. When he set down roots at Jacksonville University in 1981, Tim probably didn't realize this was just the beginning of his relationship with the university. 12 years later, after a long and distinguished business career with some of the world's largest companies, Tim is again growing JU's presence in the region and throughout the state. Here to tell you a little more about Tim Cost is one of his biggest fans, his daughter, Melanie Cost.
Thank you, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be here in the room with so many business minds, and truly an honor to introduce my favorite man in the whole world. I stand before you as Tim and Stephanie Cost's original growth investment, though I think there were probably a few months when I was about 15 years old that they weren't quite so sure about the ROI on this investment. Luckily, they believe in the efficient market, and they knew that I would self-correct. Growing up, my younger brother Drew and I didn't really know what a big deal our dad was. We knew that he commuted from Philadelphia to New York City every day, that sometimes he had to sleep over in Manhattan to smush two companies together, and that we could look up our favorite companies on the Bloomberg terminal in his home office. It's probably the only one that was consistently searched for Disney and Nike over and over and over the course of the years. We knew that he was home every night for dinner at 7, and that he never missed a baseball game or a chorus concert. As Drew and I finished college and entered the business world ourselves, he at PepsiCo in Chicago and I here at CSX in Jacksonville, it's become clear not only how accomplished and successful our dad is, but how many sacrifices that he and my mom Stephanie made to be so present in our lives. We'll never be able to thank him enough for all the days he got up at 4 a.m. to take the train to New York so that he could be home in time to participate in and even lead some of our activities. You've all read his bio, so you know that he's worked for some of the biggest and best companies in the world: Eastman Kodak, Bristol-Myers Squibb, Wyeth, Aramark, and most recently PepsiCo. He's traveled the world and created programs that changed the face of those industries. But some of the things I admire most about my dad are his passion